Welcome to this special edition of the StoreCast Self-Storage Industry Interview Series for the Self-Storage Association Asia Expo. We're delighted to join and interview and introduce some guests from the market down under. Plenty to learn and some great stories to share, so let's get stuck into it. My guest is Thomas Whalan, CEO of Renter Space in Sydney, Australia, and a four-time Australian Olympian. Thomas, as a four-time Olympian, was vice-captain of the 2004 water polo team and captained Australia at the Olympics in 2008, which is an incredible sporting achievement. So, Thomas, welcome to StoreCast, and thanks for taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Thomas, tell us a little bit, if you can, about your self-storage business, number of stores, net lettable area, etc., and also a little bit about how your family entered the industry.
Yeah, sure. We've got, as you mentioned, we're in the Sydney metropolitan area. We're into the growth areas of Sydney, the Sydney metropolitan area. We've got 12 operating assets, and we've got 2 under construction at the moment. One we just started the other day, which is a very exciting time for us for growth, and another 3 in various stages of planning. And we also have a commercial development where it was originally a self-storage DA, but the market of Alexandria in the fringe suburb of just outside the Sydney CBD, that was an opportunity we saw for a commercial development. So we've got that all ready to go and just waiting pre-lease. In terms of the business, yeah, my father started the business back in around 1979. In probably around the late 70s, he'd just sold a laundromat business and was traveling with the family, and took 6 months off and just to take some time out and consider some other options, and came across self-storage in the US and saw all these orange roller doors everywhere, and eventually drove into one of them and asked some questions. The store manager at the time opened the books up and showed him how it works, and he just loved the idea. Obviously a property business, a property play, recurring revenue, and so brought that idea back to Australia, suggested to his business partner that he has a look as well. He was just as excited. They opened up their first one in Padstow in about 1979, and made up some pricing which they thought people would be willing to pay, which was an absolute multiple of industrial pricing and industrial property pricing at the time. People paid it, and they kept coming back, and they kept getting bonked because they didn't really have a good road base at the time, didn't know too much about all the ins and outs of construction that we do now, and realised he was onto a good thing.
Fascinating. There's so many common stories like that about self-storage starting here in Australia, people chancing across it and trips to the US. It's a great reminder of the importance of getting out and about and seeing what else is in the market. And for the Asian market, there's no doubt that it's a frontier industry at the moment, and people are really just trying to work out how on earth it works in these different sub-markets throughout Southeast Asia and mainland China.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think, it's certainly interesting to see some of those Asian markets in somewhat in their infancy, and they've got their own challenges around, property and property laws and leasing versus the opportunity to purchase them. But it's a really interesting story to be watching the growth, and I think the pretty strong dynamic growth of the Asian market at the moment. And from that background of where we've come and where we are now, I think it's certainly an interesting time for the industry globally.
And Thomas, is a second generation family business, which is pretty typical in self-storage. How do you work in with your dad? He's a strong personality and the founder of the business, and delivered some great success, and you're now taking that to another level and bringing your own stamp to the business and the industry. How do you structure that on a day-to-day basis? Do you have external boards, or is it, it'd just be good to get an insight into how the family business works?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate, very blessed that I have the opportunity to be working with my dad day in, day out, and really leaning on his breadth of expertise and experience and his patience, I suppose. I think the younger generation, we always want more kind of immediately. But I think having that ability to really have my father still hands-on. So yes, I'm CEO. I have a lot of autonomy over a lot of areas of the business, be it the financing, the structuring, the operations, the property developments that we've got on. So there's a lot of facets to our business now. And I think we just have a wonderful relationship. I'm really working in with him in a lot of the major decisions across the company. And it's really good to be able to have that bouncing ideas and different opportunities with one another. And I've been in the business probably for about 7 or 8 years now, and so there's still so much more that I can learn, and I really enjoy that. And I think we work fantastically. We've got different skills, and he has a lot of faith in what I do and where we're going and the company that we've been able to grow in that time, and the new development pipeline that we've got going on. So we just work really well together, and I think there's also a benefit in that we can make decisions really quickly and we can move forward. We don't have an overly arduous governance structure with a big extensive board or anything like that. We're able to kind of make decisions and move pretty quickly.
Fantastic. A lot we can all learn from that. 2020, what an incredible year for everybody around the world, and self-storage is no different. The industry has fared remarkably well, I'd have to say. Question to you, lessons learned in 2020, any memorable experiences or moments through the COVID pandemic that have really struck you and perhaps might have changed your outlook on the business?
Yeah, I think COVID has been, I think we'll be studying this for years and years and years to come on the outcomes of not only the economic, but mental health and the economy and individuals and businesses and industries. And we're living that right now. So I think it's been really, the best thing has been, it has been a challenge. But at the same time, I think the best thing that I've got out of COVID is that it's actually brought our team together closer as a business. We've really gone out of our way to be engaging even more so than we were before, and leaning more on the technology that we probably didn't lean on beforehand, obviously, such as we're doing now in Zoom. And I know a lot of people have a bit of Zoom fatigue, but I think on the balance of things, the ability to be able to engage a lot closer with your team, one-on-one and as a group, I think we've been able to pull together and work really well. I think in our business, there's been a real appreciation that we're in an industry and a business that has been somewhat resilient relative to other industries, relative to other businesses. And so there's a real appreciation of what we're doing. And then also to see the customer side of things. We always see the best and worst situations of what customers are going through. We see some fantastic ones about growing businesses, about buying your first home or buying a new home, but we also, through this COVID, we've seen some really difficult stories, and it's really, I suppose, an honour to be able to serve customers in those situations, and then to get that really positive feedback. And our staff have been just so empathetic with all of the different reasons why people are storing now. Occupancy is up, demand is up for storage as people are moving, situations are changing. So I think the positive to come out of that is just our ability to be able to serve not only our team internally, but obviously our customers as well.
Yeah, fascinating. And any particular changes in demand patterns that you're seeing? And examples I know that we're seeing in our business are the work from home, the work from anywhere phenomenon, which I think is absolutely here to stay. That concept of work for anywhere is a dead set game changer for city planning and the way that people run their lives and business. Any changes in demand patterns that you're seeing from business customers, residential customers and others?
Yeah, I would say that we've got probably a growing market now of people willing to use self-storage for lifestyle. I think we always had that, especially in the highly densely populated areas. We've got the building that I'm in here. We're just in Sydney's suburb of Waterloo/Moore Park, where you've got a huge amount of density in terms of apartment living. So we've always kind of seen that here, but we're starting to see that, I think, at our other stores as well. People working from home, people spending a lot more time at home, obviously wanting to declutter, wanting to make room for that work from home office. So I think there is a bit more of a trend of that, people looking to self-storage beyond just, I need self-storage at a certain point in my life because I'm moving or I'm buying a new house or I'm staging a new house, and a smaller element of business customers. I think there's a greater appreciation now of the breadth of uses for self-storage and people willing to use self-storage as an ongoing service rather than potentially a grudge purchase at times or a period that they only want to be there for a short term. So I'm hopeful that that's a longer trend for our industry.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Looking forward beyond 2020, please, can it happen quickly? What's next for the self-storage industry? Any key themes? They might be around innovation or building formats. It's great that you're delivering multiple projects at the same time. So you're absolutely at the forefront of that here in the Sydney metropolitan area. What are you seeing next around the corner for our industry?
I think for our industry in general, I think there's a lot of investments trying to find a home in self-storage. I think this has really brought to the fore the resilience of the self-storage industry. You can see in the US market, especially in terms of property REITs, self-storage are up there probably amongst the top 2 or 3 that have been so resilient to this pandemic, also through the GFC and through recessionary periods. And in that, there's cheap money out there. They're looking for income. They're looking for a safe place to park money. And so I think we'll see more money trying to find a home in self-storage domestically, and also international money as well, trying to find a place for self-storage. So I think, yes, it bodes well for the industry. I think with that comes challenges as well. Ideally, we're not going to find oversupply, but I think there's a natural kind of a natural break on oversupply because of the time it takes to find a property, to acquire that property, to get the planning in place and to develop that property. So there's kind of a natural slowing of oversupply that can happen. So I see it a bit of a boom time in the sense for money coming into the industry. I think the industry as well is going through a pretty good transition to greater technology, greater customer experience. We've probably been a bit slower to adopt, but now through this pandemic, we've realized that yes, we can very easily do contactless storage, which was, we'd always look at the reasons why we couldn't do that prior. And it's probably, I think in the last few years, especially from our perspective, we've really looked at that customer experience and what we can be doing better in terms of not just refitting old warehouses. It's really purpose-built, beautiful properties, ideally, that people and customers want to be there for in a longer term as well. And how they use that as well is not just individuals for furniture, etc., or buying and moving and selling, more in those small businesses using them as a business hub. And I think that the services that we'll start to provide in those businesses, we'll start to see a bit more services, value-add services beyond just the self-storage.
Yeah, fantastic. Couldn't agree more. It is such a watershed time for our industry, and I agree that the weight of money trying to find a home in self-storage globally, throughout Asia and also here in Australia and New Zealand is remarkable in that chase for yield, and to see storage as an industry perform with such resilience again as it did in the GFC, and this time even more, I'd have to say. Is a real testament to the service that we provide to the local customers and communities. So totally agree with that. And here comes some technology and innovation at long last into our industry. So like so many industries, COVID is accelerating various trends. I think, Thomas, a fair comment. And that particular trend of automation technology, it sort of feels to me like we've had about 5 years of progress happen in 9 months in technology, and certainly we're not there yet. And we're trialling and we're testing a few products, as you and I have spoken about in the past, and those products will look different in a few years' time. But it's great to see that we can give better customer service off the back of better technology. So let's throw to your other great passion outside of self-storage and your family, and that is water polo. And it really is a privilege to have you with us today. Not too many 4-time Olympians around. As you know, I've had Grant Hackett, a good buddy of mine, on a previous episode, multiple Olympian, multiple gold medal winner, and you're both big, tall guys who go pretty well on the water. Mate, share with us, if you can, some of your great Olympic experiences, the pride of captaining your country, just good to get a bit insight into what went on in your Olympic journey.
Yeah, it's pretty overwhelming. It's pretty difficult to back up after Grant Hackett being on your show. So,
mate, you're in good company. Don't worry, mate. Holding yourself very well.
Yeah, no, he's an absolute champion. It was a brilliant video cast of seeing Grant Hackett, and great to see that he's an investor in the industry as well. Yeah, look, I was very fortunate from a very young age. I love sport. My parents really put me into sport, encouraged me with my brother and sister to do as much sport as possible, and I think I really try and instill that into my children as well. I think it's so important, all of the things that you learn from teamwork, from leadership, from from discipline, all of those things. And I was really happy and obviously honoured to be able to represent Australia at the Sydney 2000 Olympics, 2004 in Athens. I got to meet my now wife, Elka Graham at the time, Elka Whalan now, and she was an Olympic swimmer and a silver medalist in Sydney 2000 as well. 2008, being able to captain the side, which was just such an experience. I'll obviously never forget that. And I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about teamwork, about servant leadership, even after 2 Olympics already. And then by 2012, I'd had a couple of years off. We had a couple of children, came back into the team, and that was really such a wonderful experience because it was a harder journey to get to those Olympics. But at that time, I really enjoyed the different aspect of leadership. We had some young players in that team, some old wise players as well. And we had some victories along the way. We had some losses, unfortunately, but they all stood out for really different reasons. Going back to Sydney 2000, imagine walking into an opening ceremony and you're 19 years old. Yes, you know about the Olympics, but you're training so hard and you're so focused on processes and what will eventually be outcomes that you kind of forget the size of the Olympics and what it means to a nation and to the world. And I just remember walking into that opening ceremony of all of 110,000 people. And it was just, wow, this is what it's about. It really, really hit me in a beautiful, positive way. And I remember dancing away out there in the stadium. I'm not a great dancer, I don't think, by any means, but just that euphoric feeling. And then to be able to play in front of your family and friends. Sport brings with it wonderful highs and terrible lows as well. And, I enjoyed all of those along the way in the Olympic Games. I remember 2008, a heartache. We only needed 1 goal in one of 3 games to be able to get through to the next stage in the top 6. We ended up drawing with Hungary when a goal wasn't allowed in the last second. That would have been, we would have won, we would have gone through. And Hungary actually ended up going on and winning the gold medal. They didn't get beaten in that Olympics at all other than our draw. So yeah, I had some wonderful moments. I also got to live over in Italy and live in Spain playing professionally. So I picked up the languages. I just fell in love with the culture and I've just been blessed to have a career that has included captaining my team, my nation, and then also cheering Water Polo Australia as well afterwards and giving back to the sport.
Well, Thomas, I got chills describing going into the stadium for the 2000 Olympics. What an incredible experience, and to be able to reflect on it also with your wife Elke is remarkable. So, mate, thanks for everything you've done as an Olympian for the country. It's quite remarkable. I'm really fascinated by the intersection of sport and business. So many high performers in sport that I know are able to bring that discipline into business. Some are not able to for various reasons. But love to understand from you, what are some key habits or disciplines that you applied in sport which have translated to business and have benefited you in both those arenas?
Yeah, look, I think the beauty of sport is that it all of those elements come together. To be able to be successful in sport, you need to bring all of those elements together, but they're always under trial, under a pressure situation. So when something comes up in business, I think it's a lot easier to deal with having had that experience under such pressure. Imagine being in an Olympic stadium. I remember 2012, my final Olympics, and we were coming up against Greece, and if we lost to them, we were out of the top 8, and it would have really been a disaster for everything that we put in as a team, individually as well, what I sacrificed to be there at that 4th Olympics. And it was a really precious situation. We got together as a team beforehand, and some things weren't working, some key areas weren't working in our game. And what I was most proud about was that when we came together, everyone was kind of humble enough and willing to give to the team, to put their hand up where they didn't understand what was going wrong or their role in certain aspects. And we really worked together for a long meeting that day before that game, and we ironed out some aspects of our game. The next game, I think, was the best game we've ever played in the Olympics as a team throughout all of my experience, probably with the Australian team. And so from that, I learned a lot, not just in that meeting, but what led to the ability for us to even have that meeting, to speak up, and even some of the younger guys putting their hands up saying, look, I don't quite understand this. What can we do? And so that's one example, I think, of working with a team, of creating a culture in a team that you need to be able to bring to your business. And that's really the ability for everybody to have a voice, to be able to speak up and to be able to work through situations, be it COVID, be it other issues that's going through your business. I think servant leadership as well, that to me is really, really important in a team sport, in an individual sport, even when you're a part of a team. I remember Grant Hackett talking about that as well. Even though swimming is seen as an individual sport, they're obviously the Aussie swim team. So servant leadership is really being interested in your others and being empathizing with them and really being there to serve them. It's a fine line between being a leader with an ego to being there to serve others and to be humble enough to ask the questions and invite others into that sphere as well. So I think that's really important. Discipline, obviously the discipline to be able to get up every day and to continue to do the same things and to really put into the processes rather than looking at the numbers all the time and just looking and focused on the outcomes and the dollars in business or the results in sport. So I think that's really, really important, having really good, strong processes and to be willing to do the same things over and over if that's what it takes and to be able to tweak them as well. And then probably finally is just the character. You're not going to succeed in anything if your character isn't strong. And you know, people will question your character or question your integrity in all aspects of life and in sport as well. But you've got to be willing to know that you've gone to bed at night, giving it absolutely everything, putting it all in, and have the right values to be able to succeed as a team and as a team in the business sense.
That's a wonderful summary, Thomas. Fantastic. I completely agree with what you're saying. I'd be interested, just as a follow-up question, the concept of servant leadership, which I absolutely subscribe to. How has that played out for you in 2020? You touched on earlier the impact on staff and customers, and the pandemic really has brought a large mental toll in all markets, and I know viewers of this will have experienced that directly or indirectly in their family or business or personal life. How has your leadership been impacted or evolved out of the incredible lessons of 2020?
I think it's you're taking a greater interest in the aspect of people's lives, of your team members' lives outside of just the purity of the business and the 9 to 5. You know, we have some regional meetings where we're going around the table and we're going, look, you know, how are you? Any issues? Obviously, in an individual sense, if they don't feel like sharing it with others, but also just getting to know a bit more about how they're dealing with this and if there are any issues that they want to bring to the table. And it's probably something we wouldn't necessarily have touched upon as much beforehand. But I think everyone reacts differently to these situations. We did have a period of time where we had a lot of people working from home. We still have quite a bit of our management team working from home as well. So it's really important that we're checking in more often and getting to know how they are, you know, just outside the business as well. The second thing I think is having a lot more faith in your team as well and the integrity of your team. You know, we're relying on them to still be working when they're working from home, when, you know, they don't have eyes and ears over them at all. But I think that's really given me a lot more faith in my team, that they're still managing to get great results. They're still pulling together even better results than we've had in the past. And so I think it's having a bit more faith in your team and ensuring, you know, when you're looking for new staff, it's more about the integrity of the staff that you're looking for rather than the skills. We can train the skills that they need in our business. I'm pretty confident that we've got a great system now about the different roles that we need, but it's really about integrity and being that beacon of integrity back to them as well. I've been sharing more with the team, I think, from the business perspective and personal perspective as well. And I think that really bodes well with the team.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And what an incredible opportunity. We could look at 2020 as a hugely disruptive, negative experience, or look at it from a positive angle. And it sounds like you're doing exactly that in the way that you manage your team, you recruit, and also obviously quite fortuitously, self-storage has performed really well. So, you know, a great opportunity to get some lessons and apply to those in business going forward for all of us involved in the industry. Thomas, a really important question. I've just taken up swimming training again, and I'm after some tips. Now, I'm only up to about 1.5K in a session, mate. And I'd like to do an open water swim, the Rottnest Island swim in 3 years' time is my goal. I've turned 50 this year. How am I going to go, mate? Is that realistic or just give up now?
Hans, I've got to say, 1.5 kilometres is fantastic because I've just taken up swimming again myself. Believe it or not, I get in the pool and I just pump out 1 kilometre, and that's about my limit these days. It doesn't take too long, but so you're beating me there. And a mate of mine actually just got these form goggles to encourage me to do a bit more, I think, where you can actually see on a screen how many laps you've done. So we're kind of competing against each other. So that might get me up to the 1.5 or 2Ks that you're getting to. But yeah, look, I mean, there's nothing better than to get up early, have a swim, and you feel great afterwards, don't you? And then working towards a goal. And Rottnest Island, I'll tell you what, that's a pretty massive goal. I think that's about 19 kilometres, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's quite a swim, and one of the fellows I'm doing it with has done it before. And for our Asian audience, they might find this a bit weird, but while he was swimming from Perth mainland to Rottnest Island over 19 kilometres, a large white pointer shark swam under the crowd, and he just sort of shut his eyes and kept going. So
I tell you what, that's all I would be thinking about. I've seen the size of those great white sharks over there off the coast of Western Australia. I've played over in WA many times, but and swam down at Cottesloe Beach where I believe there was a massive shark attack some years ago. So try not to think about that if and when you achieve that goal in 3 years' time, but I do wish you all the best.
Excellent. I'll report back in. I'll be playing the numbers game that day. I just would like to circle back, if I can, Thomas, as we start to close out on automation. I'd be really interested in your thoughts on automation. We have spoken about this together before with some of the other operators in the Australian market, and it is a real theme of 2020. And our Asian friends, I think, are well advanced on this, and all sorts of automation which have gone to another level. We're a little behind the curve here in Australia, and there's that balance which I think is unresolved, and maybe there's not a right or a wrong, but it's that balance between ongoing customer service and the importance of automation for a couple of reasons. Automation brings a greater ability to track your data, which then circles back to improve customer service, so that's a real positive. The other advantage of automation is obviously cost reduction, which then leads to sort of staffing numbers, and that's our staff are critically important to us, and we value them massively. But it's a bit of that balance, isn't it? And ensuring that the health requirements of customers who may not want direct contact with a staff member. And also optimising staff time during the day, so the staff retain their job, but they actually can spend the time doing far higher value tasks through the benefit of automation. Really interested to see how you guys are embracing automation and any early lessons or thoughts you might have.
Yeah, it's an amazing topic, automation, because I think, as you said, we've probably been slow to adopt automation in the industry over here, and probably generally globally in the US market as well. You have keyless solutions now coming through some of those US markets, and I know you're trialing that in one of your stores, and there's a couple of early adopters here. And I think, automation, ideally you can serve all of those customers. So you can serve those who want to be walked through what self-storage is, because even though we've been in the industry for a long time here in Australia, our customers still don't truly, I think in general, understand or appreciate how self-storage works. So it's one thing to get the sizing and everything, but we find there's still a majority of our customers, there's an education to what self-storage is, how it works, and to walk them through that, to give them the confidence to be able to do that. But ideally, yes, you can go all the way to automation for those customers that don't want to talk to you or touch you, or they just know what they want, and then all the way to the full service, or a full service model to those other customers. You touched upon data. Yeah, I think data is just so important, and automation or trying to get to achieve automation of sorts, led by data is just so valuable, and the decisions that you can make from a business, and also using that data as well to a degree, and I suppose automation in pricing as well, and using data as well to drive unit mix and unit layout and things for new developments as well to really drive efficiencies. So look, I agree with you. I think it's, from my perspective, automation is, there's somewhat of a goal that we as a business want to be able to achieve automation, not necessarily to be just that, but it really means that we'd be driving efficiencies in our business for internally for ourselves, for our processes, and yes, for financing, etc., but also for our customers. If we can kind of achieve automation for our customers, that they're self-help, that they understand it so well because we've been able to educate them so well, I think we're ticking a really large goal. I do think there are still challenges legally with automation, with keyless entries, and that's a concern of mine. But I think the industry will eventually get over that. There's a really strong legal background to self-storage. We license space. We don't have care, custody, and control, which means we don't have a key. And then having a keyless model where potentially a court at one point may determine that that's holding a key. That's something that I think we as an industry need to get over and be really sure about, so that we can be very certain that we're protected by the relationship, the contractual relationship that we have with customers.
Good summary. Thanks for that, and thanks for sharing your experience. Well, look, Thomas, we're coming to the end of our time together on StoreCast. Thank you so much for your time today. And look, generally, one of the great things about this industry is the quality of the people involved, and you're a great example of that. And a full credit to your achievements in the sporting environment, both on and off the field. And there's no doubt Renter Space has got a great momentum in the Sydney metropolitan market and perhaps other markets in the future. And thank you for sharing your experiences today with us. It's some really good learnings for myself and also for the audience here around servant leadership and just the importance of looking after your staff and your customers, and some wonderful lessons out of 2020 which are going to hold us all in good stead as we go forward. So Thomas, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you making yourself available, and we look forward to chatting with you again soon. Have a great day.
Thanks so much for having me. Let's have a swim when you're down in Sydney next, when you open those borders up and can come on down. And look, great initiative what you're doing with StoreCast with Store Local, and I really appreciate being invited into this, and look forward to more developments, more growth in not only our business but in our industry as well.
Good on you. Thanks, Thomas. Have a great day. Cheers. Some great takeaways from that interview. We'll see you soon on this special Expo edition of StoreCast.